I used to think loyalty was everything. That if you gave people your trust, they'd never take advantage of it. Maybe that's why it hit so hard when I found out just how wrong I was. My name is Alex Carter, and for the past 5 years, I've poured my heart into building a freelance design business from scratch. It wasn't easy. Late nights hunched over my laptop, endless client revisions, and more cups of coffee than I care to count, but paid off. My work started getting noticed. Clients loved my creativity, my attention to detail, and most importantly, my integrity. Word spread, and soon I had a steady stream of projects, keeping me busy. But none of that would have happened without Jamie Lee. Jamie and I met at a networking event 4 years ago. We clicked instantly. Two creative souls who shared the same passion for storytelling through visuals. At first, we collaborated on small projects here and there, but eventually we became inseparable. Business partners, confidants, friends, or so I thought. There were moments, though, little things that in hindsight should have tipped me off. Like the time Jamie casually mentioned how unfair it was that I got top billing on a project we both worked on. You know, they said with a laugh, though it didn't quite reach their eyes. If I had your name recognition, I could land twice as many clients. Another time, after a particularly successful pitch, Jamie muttered something about wanting a bigger piece of the pie. Back then, I brushed it off as harmless venting. Now, those words feel like warning signs I ignored. We spent countless hours brainstorming ideas, bouncing concepts off each other until we struck gold. I'll never forget the thrill of landing our first big client together, a local startup looking to revamp its entire brand identity. Jamie brought energy, I brought precision. Together, we made magic. Those days are etched in my memory now, not because they were perfect, but because they felt real. Or at least I thought they did. Things changed subtly over time. Jamie started taking longer lunches, leaving me to handle meetings alone. They'd show up late to deadlines or hand over half-finished drafts with an apologetic shrug. "Sorry, Alex, life's been crazy," they'd say, flashing the disarming smile of theirs. And every time I let it slide. After all, Jamie was my friend. Friends forgive each other, right? Then came the day everything shifted, or rather, the moment I realized it already had. It was a Tuesday afternoon when one of our biggest clients called us in for a last-minute meeting. The stakes were high, a 6-figure contract for a year-long campaign. Jamie and I worked tirelessly to prepare, trading sketches and drafts late into the night. By the time we walked into that boardroom, I truly believed we were unstoppable. The presentation went flawlessly, or so I thought. As we wrapped up, the client nodded approvingly and turned to Jamie. "Your vision is incredible," they said. "Honestly, this is exactly what we've been looking for." I froze. Their vision? Mine and Jamie's combined effort had gone into this pitch. Yet somehow, Jamie stood center stage, soaking up the praise like it belonged solely to them. When the client asked follow-up questions, Jamie answered confidently, barely glancing in my direction. For the first time, doubt crept in. Why hadn't Jamie acknowledged my contributions? Was this intentional, or just carelessness? That evening, as we packed up our materials, I tried to shake off the unease gnawing at me. "Hey, Jamie," I said, forcing a casual tone. The client seemed really impressed today. Jamie smirked, zipping up their bag. "Yeah, well, someone had to step up, you know. You've been swamped lately, and I figured I'd take the lead." Take the lead. The phrase echoed in my head long after Jamie left the room. Something about it didn't sit right. But before I could dwell on it further, my phone buzzed, a notification from social media. A post tagged by the client featuring Jamie standing proudly beside our designs, captioned, "Thrilled to announce our partnership with Jamie Lee." My stomach dropped. What the hell was going on? I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the phone as if frozen in place. The image was harmless enough, a professional headshot of Jamie smiling confidently next to our designs. But the caption beneath it hit me like a punch to the gut. "Thrilled to announce our partnership with Jamie Lee." My mind raced. Partnership? With Jamie? Not us. Not me. I scrolled through the comments, hoping, praying it was some kind of mistake. But there it was, clear as day. Congratulatory messages directed solely at Jamie. No mention of my name anywhere. My chest tightened, and I felt the room spin slightly. Weeks of sleepless nights, endless brainstorming sessions, revisions upon revisions. All of it reduced to nothing. Erased. I told myself to calm down. Maybe this was just a miscommunication. Maybe Jamie would explain everything later. Except, deep down, I already knew better. That smug look during the presentation. The way they'd taken full control of the conversation with the client, it all made sense now. Sickeningly so. The next morning, I called Jamie, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, can we talk? About yesterday's meeting? Sure, Jamie replied breezily as if nothing were wrong. What's up? We met at a coffee shop near the office, a neutral zone where neither of us could claim home field advantage. As soon as we sat down, I slid my phone across the table, showing them the post. Care to explain this? Jamie glanced at the screen, then shrugged, their expression unreadable. Oh, that. Yeah. The client wanted someone specific to represent the project moving forward. You know how these things go. How these things go. My voice cracked despite my best efforts to stay composed. Jamie, this was our pitch. We worked on it together for weeks. Their eyes flickered, just for a second, but long enough for me to catch the shift. Guilt? Satisfaction? Whatever it was, it fueled my anger. Look, Alex, Jamie said, leaning back in their chair. You've been distracted lately. Overworked. Honestly, it's probably better this way. Let me handle the heavy lifting while you focus on smaller projects. Smaller projects. The word stung more than I expected. This wasn't just about taking credit. Jamie was actively pushing me out of the picture entirely. But the worst part came later that week. Word spread fast in our tight-knit industry. Colleagues started avoiding me, their smiles polite but distant. One even pulled me aside after a networking event. Tough break, they muttered sympathetically. Heard you're hard to work with these days. Hard to work with. The phrase repeated in my head like a mantra, twisting the knife deeper each time. Rumors. Jamie hadn't just stolen my work. They'd poisoned my reputation too. And why? So they could climb higher faster? That night, alone in my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. If Jamie thought they could erase me so easily, they were dead wrong. I still had the original files, the timestamps, drafts, metadata. Every step of our process documented meticulously because that's who I am. Detail-oriented, thorough, obsessive even. As I sifted through the evidence, a cold clarity settled over me. This wasn't just betrayal, it was theft. And I wasn't going to let it stand. A message notification popped up on my screen. A group chat with mutual contacts. Someone had tagged Jamie in a glowing article about emerging designers to watch. Below it, Jamie commented modestly, just doing what I love. My hands clenched into fists. Oh, Jamie, enjoy your moment in the spotlight. Because when this blows up in your face, and it will, you won't see it coming. The question was, how far was I willing to go to make sure of it? The days blurred together after that. Each morning, I woke up hoping it was all some cruel nightmare, but the reality hit harder every time I checked my email. The inbox remained empty, no new inquiries, no follow-ups from potential clients. Just silence. It was like being erased, piece by piece. Bills piled up on my kitchen counter mocking me. Late notices for rent, utilities, even my phone bill stared back at me, their red stamps glaring like accusations. How had things fallen apart so quickly? One moment, I was thriving. The next, I couldn't even pay my share of the electric bill. I tried to reach out to past clients, sending polite emails and making calls. But the responses were lukewarm at best. We'll keep you in mind, they'd say, or worse, nothing at all. Word travels fast in this industry, especially when someone as charming as Jamie is spreading lies about you behind closed doors. Unreliable, difficult to work with. Those words haunted me, replaying in my head like a broken record until I started believing them myself. For weeks, I barely left my apartment. My once pristine workspace became cluttered with half-empty coffee mugs and crumpled sketches I didn't have the energy to finish. Sleep eluded me most nights, and when it came, it was restless, an endless loop of dreams where Jamie stood center stage while I faded into the background, invisible. But the darkest moments weren't the sleepless nights or mounting debt. They were the quiet ones, when self-doubt crept in like a thief. Who was I without my work? Without recognition? Was Jamie right? Had I become too difficult, too much of a burden? One evening, after another fruitless day of trying to drum up leads, I sat staring at my laptop screen. A notification popped up, a reminder for an overdue invoice. I clicked it absent-mindedly, scrolling through the list of unpaid bills. Panic bubbled in my chest, threatening to overwhelm me. This wasn't just failure, it felt like erasure. And then something inside me snapped. I slammed the laptop shut, the sound echoing off the walls of my tiny apartment. Enough. Enough of feeling sorry for myself. Enough of letting Jamie win without a fight. I grabbed a notepad and pen, scribbling furiously. Every interaction we'd ever had, every project we'd worked on, I documented it all. Timestamps, file versions, emails exchanged during late-night brainstorming sessions. Evidence. Proof. I wouldn't let Jamie's lies define me any longer. As I wrote, clarity began to seep in. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about justice. About reclaiming what was mine and exposing Jamie for who they really were. But I couldn't do it impulsively. No screaming matches, no public confrontations, not yet. If there was one thing Jamie underestimated, it was how methodical I could be when pushed far enough. By the time dawn broke, I had a plan sketched out. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. First, I needed allies, people who knew the truth about our partnership before Jamie twisted it. Sarah, a former client turned friend, came to mind immediately. She'd always appreciated my professionalism and creativity. Maybe she'd be willing to vouch for me. Next, I decided to create a trap, a project so irresistible that Jamie wouldn't be able to resist stealing it. Something bold, innovative, impossible to ignore. And this time, I'd make sure every step of their theft was meticulously recorded. A spark of determination ignited within me, cutting through the fog of despair. For the first time in weeks, I felt alive again. Not happy, not hopeful, just focused. Jamie thought they'd won, that I'd slink away quietly and let them take everything. They were wrong. As I opened my laptop again, ready to begin crafting the fake project, a new email notification appeared. The subject line read, "Exciting opportunity ahead." My heart skipped a beat. Could it be real? Or was this another twist in Jamie's game? I hesitated, my finger hovering over the mouse. Whatever it was, I couldn't afford to ignore it, not now. I clicked on the email, my pulse quickening. The sender was unfamiliar, a generic address with a company name I didn't recognize. My stomach churned as I scanned the message. It wasn't an opportunity for me. It was addressed to Jamie. Someone had forwarded it by mistake. The email praised Jamie's innovative vision and invited them to collaborate on a high-profile campaign. Attached was a brief outlining exactly what they were looking for, something eerily similar to a concept I'd pitched months ago, a concept Jamie had dismissed at the time, calling it too ambitious. My hands trembled as I closed the email. This wasn't just carelessness or greed anymore. Jamie wasn't just stealing my work. They were building their entire career on it, and now they were being rewarded for it. Enough. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Jamie's Downfall. Then I got to work. Hours turned into days as I sifted through old files, emails, and drafts, piecing together a timeline of Jamie's theft. Every timestamp, every revision history entry, it all told a story. My story. There was the initial brainstorming session where I sketched out the logo design that landed us our first big client. There were the late-night messages where I suggested tweaks to the color palette Jamie had initially rejected. Even the tiny details, the font choices, the spacing adjustments, they were mine. All of them. But raw data wouldn't be enough. People needed context. They needed witnesses. So I started reaching out. Sarah was the first person I contacted. She'd been one of our earliest clients, someone who'd seen firsthand how much effort I poured into every project. When she answered my call, her voice was warm but cautious. "Alex, is everything okay?" "I need your help," I said without preamble. "It's about Jamie." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "What happened?" I took a deep breath and laid it all out, the stolen designs, the rumors, the systematic erasure of my contributions. By the time I finished, Sarah was silent. Finally, she spoke, her tone firm. "You have my support, whatever you need." Her words hit me like a lifeline. For weeks, I'd felt isolated, betrayed not just by Jamie, but by everyone else who'd turned their backs on me. Hearing Sarah say she believed me, it meant more than I could put into words. Over the next few days, I reached out to others, former colleagues who'd seen Jamie take credit for team efforts, clients who'd noticed inconsistencies in Jamie's behavior. Not everyone responded, but those who did gave me ammunition. Testimonials, screenshots, even offhand comments Jamie had made about wanting more recognition. All of it added up. With each piece of evidence, my resolve hardened. This wasn't just about exposing Jamie anymore. It was about reclaiming my identity, proving to myself and everyone else that I hadn't imagined my own worth. One afternoon, while organizing the files, I stumbled across something unexpected. An old email thread between Jamie and a mutual contact named Claire. In it, Jamie casually mentioned looking for new opportunities and hinted at using some of our shared projects as portfolio pieces. Claire replied enthusiastically, praising Jamie's talent. Claire. That name sent a jolt through me. She wasn't just another acquaintance. She was well-connected in the industry. Someone whose endorsement carried weight. If Jamie was cozying up to her, it meant they were planning something bigger. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Claire could be useful, but only if I played my cards right. What if I used her to deliver the fake project? To make sure Jamie couldn't resist taking the bait? The idea took shape slowly, forming in the back of my mind like a storm, gathering strength. I opened a blank document and began sketching out the concept, a bold, attention-grabbing campaign for a fictional luxury brand. Something flashy, innovative, impossible to ignore. As I worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was it, the moment where I stopped reacting and started controlling the narrative. Jamie thought they were untouchable, invincible, but they didn't know me. Not really. Not yet. When the design was ready, I sent it to Claire under the guise of seeking feedback. "Thought you might appreciate this," I wrote casually. "Let me know what you think." Minutes later, my phone buzzed. Claire had replied, "Wow, Alex, this is incredible. Who's the client?" I smiled, though no one was there to see it. "Just a passion project for now," I typed back. "But feel free to share it if you know anyone who'd be interested." The seed was planted. Now all I had to do was wait. And waiting was the hardest part. The days that followed were a blur of calculated moves and sleepless nights. I poured every ounce of my energy into perfecting the fake project. A campaign so polished, so groundbreaking, that even I almost believed it was real. The fictional luxury brand, Velvet Noir, had a sleek logo, an aspirational tagline, where elegance meets excess, and a meticulously crafted backstory designed to appeal to anyone with ambition or greed. I knew Jamie wouldn't be able to resist it. Once the design files were ready, I embedded metadata into each layer, timestamps, authorship tags, even subtle watermarks invisible to the naked eye, but glaringly obvious under scrutiny. Every detail was deliberate, every step traceable. If Jamie took the bait, and I had no doubt they would, I'd have everything I needed to prove their theft. Claire's response came sooner than expected. "Alex," she wrote, her tone breathless with excitement, "this is incredible. I showed it to someone who might be interested. They're looking for fresh ideas right now." My heart raced as I read her message. This was it. The moment I'd been waiting for. "That's great to hear," I replied, keeping my voice casual despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Let me know how it goes." It didn't take long. 2 days later, Claire forwarded me an email chain between herself and Jamie. My stomach churned as I scrolled through it. Jamie's enthusiasm practically dripped off the screen. "This is genius," they gushed. "Who's the client? Can you put me in touch?" I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. One wrong move could ruin everything. Instead of responding directly, I let Claire handle the conversation, feeding Jamie just enough information to keep them hooked. By the end of the week, Jamie had secured a meeting with the supposed client, a fabrication I'd carefully orchestrated through a burner email account. But I wasn't done yet. While Jamie was busy positioning themselves as the mastermind behind Velvet Noir, I started documenting their every move. Hidden recordings captured their pitches, emails tracked their edits, and metadata logged their changes to the original files. Each piece of evidence was another nail in their coffin. Still, I couldn't shake the fear that something might go wrong. What if Jamie suspected a trap? What if they found a way to wriggle out of it? To cover all my bases, I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Rachel, who specialized in intellectual property disputes. Rachel listened intently as I explained the situation, sliding file after file across her desk. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. "You've got a strong case here," she said finally, "but exposing this publicly will require finesse. Are you prepared for the fallout?" I nodded without hesitation. "I'm not doing this for revenge," I lied, or maybe half-lied. "I'm doing it to protect my work and reputation." Rachel raised an eyebrow, but didn't press further. She outlined the legal steps we'd need to take if things escalated, including filing a cease and desist order and pursuing damages. Knowing I had backup gave me a small sense of security, though I hoped it wouldn't come to that. This wasn't about dragging Jamie into court. It was about dismantling their facade in front of everyone who mattered. As the days passed, I became a ghost in my own life. I stopped answering calls from old contacts, focused solely on laying the groundwork for what was coming next. Even Sarah noticed my withdrawal. "You okay?" she asked during one of our check-ins. "You seemed distant." "I'm fine," I assured her, though my voice betrayed me. "Just making sure everything's ready." She hesitated before speaking again. "Remember why you're doing this, Alex. Don't let it consume you." Her words lingered long after we hung up. Was I letting this consume me? Maybe. But I couldn't afford to stop, not when I was so close. Finally, the day arrived. Jamie sent an email to the fake client, attaching their revised version of the Velvet Noir campaign. As I opened the file and saw the stolen design staring back at me, a cold satisfaction settled over me. They'd taken the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Now, all that was left was the execution. I drafted a final email to the fake client, confirming the details of the upcoming networking event where Jamie planned to unveil the campaign. Everything was set. The stage was ready. All I had to do was walk onto it and pull the curtain down. But as I closed my laptop and stared at the empty room around me, a thought crept in, one I hadn't allowed myself to consider until now. What if this didn't fix anything? What if, after all this, I still felt broken? The question hung in the air unanswered. The networking event was everything I'd anticipated, glitzy, crowded, and buzzing with the kind of energy that only comes from people trying too hard to impress each other. The venue was a sleek rooftop lounge overlooking the city skyline, all glass walls and soft lighting designed to make everyone feel important. It was the perfect stage for what I was about to do. I arrived early, my laptop tucked under one arm and a flash drive in my pocket. My hands were steady, though my pulse hammered in my ears like a drumbeat counting down to something inevitable. This was it, the culmination of weeks of planning, sleepless nights, and calculated moves. There was no turning back now. Jamie showed up fashionably late, as always, sweeping into the room like they owned the place. They were dressed impeccably, a tailored blazer paired with an air of confidence that made heads turn. When our eyes met across the room, Jamie gave me a polite nod, their expression unreadable. Did they suspect anything? Or were they still convinced they had the upper hand? "Alex," Jamie said smoothly as they approached me, holding out a hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." I shook their hand, briefly, forcing a tight smile. "Couldn't miss it. Big night for you, huh?" Their grin widened, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. "Yeah. Well, opportunities like this don't come around often. Gotta take them when they do." Opportunities. Right. Like stealing someone else's work and passing it off as your own. Before I could respond, the host called everyone to attention. The presentation was about to begin. I took my seat near the front, positioning myself strategically. Jamie stood at the podium, basking in the spotlight as they introduced their latest project, Velvet Noir. As the slides appeared on the screen behind them, showcasing designs lifted directly from my fake campaign, I felt a surge of vindication and anger. Every curve, every line, every detail screamed mine. And yet, there Jamie was, claiming it without a shred of guilt. "This concept embodies everything I stand for as a designer," Jamie declared, their voice dripping with false modesty. "Innovation, boldness, vision." I clenched my fists under the table, nails digging into my palms. Not yet. Wait for it. When Jamie finished their spiel, the audience erupted into applause. That's when I made my move. I stood up slowly, drawing every eye in the room. "Excuse me," I said, loud enough to cut through the noise. "I think there's something we need to address." Jamie froze, their smile faltering. "Alex, what are you doing?" "This isn't your design," I continued, stepping closer to the podium. "It's mine." Murmurs rippled through the crowd as I plugged my laptop into the projector. On the screen, I pulled up timestamps showing the original files I'd created. Files dated weeks before Jamie even mentioned Velvet Noir. Then came the metadata, revealing every edit Jamie had made to the stolen designs. Finally, I played the recording of Jamie discussing the project with Claire, their voice unmistakable as they gushed over an idea they clearly hadn't come up with themselves. "You've been stealing my work for years," I said, my voice steady despite the fury simmering inside me. "Taking credit for ideas you never had, erasing my contributions, and spreading lies to protect yourself. But tonight it ends." Jamie's face went pale, their composure crumbling. "This is ridiculous," they stammered, looking desperately at the audience. "They're lying. This is some kind of setup." But the evidence spoke louder than their denials. One by one, former colleagues and clients stood up, confirming what I'd already laid bare. Sarah stepped forward, her tone firm. "I worked with Alex and Jamie on several projects. Jamie consistently took credit for Alex's ideas while dismissing their input." Another voice chimed in, a mutual acquaintance who'd witnessed Jamie's manipulations firsthand. Then another. The room fell silent except for the steady stream of accusations mounting against Jamie, each one driving the stake deeper into their crumbling reputation. By the time I reached the final piece of evidence, a slideshow compiling screenshots of emails, testimonials, and documented patterns of plagiarism, the damage was done. Jamie stood frozen at the podium, their confident facade shattered. Their attempts to defend themselves dissolved into frantic, incoherent babbling. And then, as if sensing the weight of their downfall crashing down, Jamie bolted. They pushed past stunned attendees and disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but whispers and judgmental stares. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing heavily, the enormity of what I'd accomplished washing over me. Justice had been served, but it didn't feel quite like I thought it would. Instead of triumph, I felt hollow. The crowd began applauding, snapping me out of my thoughts. People approached me, offering congratulations and apologies for doubting me. But all I could focus on was the empty space where Jamie had stood moments ago. As the room buzzed around me, a single question lingered in my mind, Was this really over? Or was it just the beginning of something bigger, something darker? Because somewhere deep down, I knew Jamie wouldn't go quietly, not without a fight. The night rippled through the industry like a shockwave. By morning, the story had gone viral, shared across social media platforms, dissected in design forums, and whispered about in every corner of the creative world. Jamie's name became synonymous with theft and deceit, their once shining reputation reduced to ash. It didn't take long for the consequences to catch up with them. Within days, Jamie was fired from their current job. The same clients who'd praised their vision now distanced themselves, eager to avoid association with someone so toxic. Then came the lawsuits, copyright infringement claims filed, not just by me, but by others who'd been wronged along the way. Each case chipped away at what little Jamie had left until they were financially ruined, their savings drained and prospects non-existent. I watched it all unfold from a distance, my phone lighting up constantly with updates and messages of support. People I hadn't heard from in years reached out to apologize, to admit they believed Jamie's lies and doubted me. Some even offered new opportunities, contracts bigger than anything I'd worked on before. My inbox overflowed with inquiries, each one a testament to the power of truth and accountability. But none of that mattered as much as the quiet moments when I allowed myself to breathe again. For weeks after the confrontation, I found myself staring at my laptop screen late at night, replaying everything in my head. Had I done the right thing? Was this victory worth the cost? Then one evening, as I reviewed the files for an upcoming project, I noticed something, a small detail hidden within the Velvet Noir campaign. Something only I would recognize. Embedded subtly in the logo's intricate design was a message, nearly invisible unless you zoomed in close enough. For Jamie, stealing isn't art, it's theft. A slow smile spread across my face as I traced the words with my finger. This wasn't just closure, it was poetry, a final reminder to Jamie, and to anyone else who might think about crossing me, that actions have consequences. That betrayal leaves scars, but it also sharpens resolve. As the weeks turned into months, life began to settle into a new rhythm. My freelance business flourished, buoyed by the publicity surrounding the scandal. Clients sought me out not just for my talent, but for my integrity. And while the financial success was gratifying, it paled in comparison to the sense of peace I felt knowing I'd reclaimed control of my narrative. Still, there were nights when I wondered about Jamie. What had become of them? Were they still fighting to salvage what remained of their career, or had they retreated into obscurity, swallowed whole by their own choices? Part of me hoped they'd learned something, that they'd faced the mirror and seen the person they'd truly become. But another part knew better. Karma may deliver justice, but redemption is harder to earn. One afternoon, as I wrapped up a meeting with a satisfied client, Sarah sent me a text. "Heard Jamie's trying to start over in another city," she wrote. "Good luck to them." I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Let them try. They could run, but they couldn't hide, not from themselves, and certainly not from the legacy they'd created. That evening, as I sat alone in my apartment with a glass of wine, I opened my laptop one last time. On the screen was an email draft addressed to no one in particular, a letter I'd written during the darkest days of my spiral. It was raw, unfiltered, filled with pain and anger and hope. I deleted it without hesitation. There was no need for those words anymore. I'd moved past them, just as I'd moved past Jamie. Karma may take its time, but it always delivers. And tonight, sitting here in the quiet glow of my workspace, I finally understood what that meant. Justice isn't always loud or flashy. It's the steady hum of integrity, the quiet strength of knowing you've stood your ground when it mattered most. With a deep breath, I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new projects, new beginnings. But for now, I let myself rest. Because sometimes vindication doesn't come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with silence and the knowledge that you've won.